BookTube, Lori here, and I'm back on my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper. Welcome back if you've been here before, and if not, welcome. Thank you for joining me. Thank you all for joining me. I'm so excited to be back with you today with a video I'm not really proud of the topic of this video, and you'll see why in a minute. I mentioned briefly the other day that my Goodreads currently reading list was pretty ridiculous, and it is. And it's here's what I keep on my currently reading list. I keep on my currently reading list anything that I really intend to finish in some period of time. Having said that, I've been reading some of these books for, I guess I would say, years. Not kidding. Not kidding. So I'm going to start with the oldest ones first. Some are on my Kindle, so I'll just pop an image here because it's hard to make that look good on my Kindle while filming. But some of them are on my Kindle. Some of them I have hard copies of. And yeah, there are 15 or 16 of them. Let's get started. And let's finish them this year, shall we? I think we shall. The first one that's been on my list for a really long time, the longest time, is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. This is a really long book, and I'm really having trouble attending to it, and I almost took it off my currently reading list and put it on my DNF list, which is do not finish. But here's why I didn't, because they're adapting it into a movie. So now, of course, I really want to finish it before the movie comes out, or I won't watch the movie. So I'm probably about halfway through, although my Goodreads doesn't have an update on it. I feel like I'm close to halfway through. So it's about a boy named Theo whose mother dies tragically in an accident, an explosion as I recall, and he survives. They're both in a museum, and he survives and she does not. And his mother was an art lover and she passed that on to him. He's then sent to live with another family on Park Avenue, a very affluent family. And he acquires a painting through this accidental event. And he then goes to move with this family. And then later he's displaced again to live with his somewhat estranged father. And so it's the story of his meandering from living with his mom to living with these other people to living with his dad. And I'm sure that there's going to be an incredible ending to this book. Donna Tartt is a really great writer. It's not the writing, it's just, it's long, it's large, it's detailed, it's slow. But I feel like it might have some redeeming qualities, so I'm going to keep it on my list. Another one I haven't been able to yet finish, but I'm keeping on my list because I like it, is In the Woods by Tana French. I am about a little less maybe than halfway through. Clearly I was traveling when I was reading this, so I have not picked it up for quite a while. I don't even want to tell you how long. I like Tana French. This is the first one in her Dublin Squad series, Dublin Murder Squad series, I think. And it won the Edgar Award for the best first novel by an American author. So yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I just didn't stick with it. So this follows, so there's a backstory where 3 children were in the woods and they get lost and their parents can't find them. And it turns out they find 2 of them that have been killed and terrible things have happened to them. And one child is gripping the tree trunk and he can't remember what happened. So fast forward, as an adult, he's called to the murder of a boy who's found and in the same woods, and there's this whole connection to those woods, and he's the detective on that case, and he meets another detective, and he's obviously triggered back to the event that happened to him as a child. So it's really great, and I really want to finish it. I just haven't picked it back up. So that's definitely on my list. The Organized and Inspired Scrapbooker, which is published by, well, it's published by Creating Keepsakes magazine, which I don't think is in print anymore, but it was compiled and written by Wendy Smedley and Abby Garvey, and I have been taking a look at this for about a year, and I'm just slowly kind of going through this and implementing some of these ideas, which have been very helpful to me. So it talks about your workspace, redesigning your workspace, which we did do this year, some projects. There's some self-discovery quizzes in almost every chapter, some tools and resources, products, journals, ways to keep notes about what you want to do. It's really great, and I just need to take more time to go through it because I put it aside. I put it away one day and didn't take a look at it. The next one I recently featured in a video about my top 10 go-to creative books, and you may have seen that or may not have, but this book I love, but I actually currently don't know where it is, so I can't show you a physical copy of it, although I own one. It is Craft a Life You Love. 25 practices for infusing creativity, fun, and intention into your everyday. That's a very long title, and it's by Amy Tangerine. It's a great book as well. It really talks about making creativity a habit in your life, and not just in making specific things, but really just looking at a creative focus to what you do, whether you're in business, whether you're doing this as a hobby, whether you just want to be inspired every day and to practice something creative every day. Amy has some really great resources around that on her website and on her blog, as well as on Instagram. So if you follow her, you've probably seen those, but I really do want to finish it. And I was going through it intentionally, a chapter at a time, and then I've obviously misplaced it, and out of sight, out of mind. So I will pick it back up, and if I can't find it, I'll just order another copy. But I really do like Amy Tangerine's style, and it's a nicely done book. It starts with a letter to you from her, and it's just very personable. You feel like you're with her in the room and that you can hear her voice as you're reading it. I'm sure if there's an audio version and she's read it, I'm sure that's fantastic as well. So I highly recommend that one. On my Kindle is Fifth Avenue, 5 a.m., Audrey Hepburn, Breakfast at Tiffany's, and The Dawn of the Modern Woman, and this is written by Sam Wasson. Audrey Hepburn and Breakfast at Tiffany's are two of my favorite things, and this book really goes into the cultural, iconic presence of Audrey Hepburn, of this movie. It goes into a lot of her history and her life at that time and what made her choose things, how she became Givenchy's model for everything, how she acquired this style. Just a really, really neat book, not only about the movie, but just about that time in Hollywood and how women were emerging as actresses and how they got along with each other or didn't, how studios promoted them or didn't, and it's just neat, and I do want to finish it. The next book that I've had on my list for probably a year or so, I think I got it last summer, or maybe I think it was last summer, is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. And the reason I picked this up is because of this cover. This is a Penguin Classic Deluxe Edition cover, and they had some artists that were chosen for the cover. And this one is designed by Ruben Toledo, a Cuban artist who's actually a fashion designer. So this is Catherine, and this is Heathcliff on the back cover. I know. There's an inside flap. There's a little bit of information about the designer as well as about Emily Bronte, who, if you didn't know, is the sister of Charlotte Bronte. I read this in high school and I loved it. And so I bought this to reread it and, of course, to enjoy this luscious cover. And I'm really struggling with it this second time as an adult, and I'm not sure why. It's narrated by Mr. Lockwood, who is a new tenant of a man named Heathcliff. Heathcliff was taken in by Catherine's father as a young child, and he has this rather chaotic and very difficult relationship with Catherine. And it is, I mean, it's a very well-read novel. And like I said, when I was in high school, I loved it and I flew through it. So I'm not sure what the difference is, except that maybe now, I have mentioned before, I am slightly spoiled by fast-paced kinds of thrilling plots or mysteries or any kind of contemporary novel. And so I'm going to finish it again. I really am. I'm just not sure when. The next book on my Kindle is Neighborly. It's been on my list for about 7 months, so not quite as long. Now we're getting into the ones that I started summer last year. I think I started Wuthering Heights summer last year too. Neighborly is by Ellie Monago, and it's about a couple who moves into a neighborhood, a suburban neighborhood that's a little higher price than they can really afford, but it's a very coveted neighborhood and very close, and the neighbors are just fantastic, and they welcome you, and they have parties for you, and they want you to be a part of all their activities, and it seems on the surface like a really great thing. And then one day she's taking her new child out for a walk, and she finds a note that's a bit menacing on her car. And I think it says, if I recall, it says something like, "I saw what you did," or something like that, or "I know who you are," or something. And so she continues to try to make friends with the neighbors. She's got a little bit of anxiety. She's definitely got a past. Not sure what it is. Not going to tell you even if it did. But so definitely the notes are not only menacing, but they're causing her some sort of internal fear. So something's going on. I really want to get back to it. It's a great summer read, which is why I started it in the summer. I just put it down for other things. So it's not that it's not good. On the same vein, The Hypnotist Love Story by Liane Moriarty is on my Kindle, and I think it's also on Audible for me. I love Liane Moriarty. I haven't found one of hers that I didn't like, so I started it. It is a great plot as well, and no reason for not finishing except other things got pushed to that top of my list. I have this kind of squirrel mentality where I am reading something and I'm enjoying it, and then something else comes along that carries me off into the distracted distance. And yeah. So The Hypnotist Love Story follows a hypnotist who is dating, and she dates a guy who has a child and had a long-term relationship and is dating again, and they really are hitting it off, and things seem to be great, and the child is even starting to like her, except there's an ex of his that stalks him and starts to pester him every time they're together, and it's sort of obvious that she's nearby, and so it becomes a bit unsettling. The Passage by Justin Cronin is also on my Kindle. I took a look at it in August of last year. I was on my way to Hawaii for a training that I was doing with someone in my training group, and so I had a nice long flight, and I got a good bit of it read. I would say I'll tell you how far I am. I'm 27% done, so I guess that's pretty good. It's an 800 plus page book, which is probably why I haven't picked it back up again. And it's a little slow at times. It's fast and then a little slow, and fast and then a little slow, I have heard, but I'm in a slow part. It is one of my top 9 to finish in 2019 or to read in 2019, because it also recently was adapted into a movie or a miniseries, I think. So I do want to finish it. It's very good. It's a futuristic novel about some sort of a virus or contagious event that starts to affect patients that are then transported to a facility, and there are some FBI agents that are involved in trying to track down some people that they need to track down, and there's just a lot that I don't want to spoil, and a lot that I'm not even really sure yet what kind of is happening. I'm just on the brink of probably some revelations, but nevertheless, it's a trilogy, And I think they're all just as large. So if I do commit to this, I'll probably want to commit to the entire trilogy. We'll see. But I know a lot of people have read it and liked it. And, you know, I like it enough that I think I'm going to take another look. Father Melancholy's Daughter by Gail Godwin. One of my first Gail Godwin books was Southern Family, and it's a character-driven novel, family saga. I really liked it. I picked this up and loved it, and there's a sequel to this as well, but I decided to reread this after a period of not looking at it again for a very long time. So I'm about 100 pages in, it looks like, of 400-ish pages. It follows a daughter of a Episcopal priest, I think, or anyway, some sort of a priest. Her mother they're very close and very happy seeming couple, and her friend comes to visit her friend from college comes to visit her and the family, and they spend a couple of days together. And the little girl comes home one day and her mother has gone on a trip with her friend and she never returns. And her father goes through bouts and has always gone through bouts of depression. So the girl learns how to be a companion to him as well as a daughter, and to really try to help him with his struggles into depression. And of course their grief over the mother leaving and not having any idea of where she is or what's happened to her, no contact. And so it's not uplifting. It's definitely a slower read this time than it was the first time I went through it. Again, possibly because I'm a bit spoiled by faster paced plots these days. I think editors really probably don't always accept these for publication, but Gail Godwin in her heyday was pretty prolific, and she published a lot of really great pieces of work, and she still every now and again releases something new. But another book I'm reading, I talked about in my March reading plan, so I won't go into it in depth, but it's I Will Not Die, An Unlived Life. It's been on my to-read list for a while. This is one of the two that I really want to finish this month to get off my currently reading list and move on to some of the others. So I'm slowly but surely chipping away at this currently reading list. So take a look at my March reading plans if you'd like to learn more about that. Dragonfly and Amber, I'm on a reread. I'm almost done with this. I have a very little bit to go. And then I'm trying to get through all of these again so that I can get to the newer ones that I haven't read yet, but I just needed a reread of the old ones. Diana Gabaldon is one of my favorites. Her stories follow a woman who goes back through from post-World War II Britain to some stones that she finds in Scotland, and she's transported back to the 1800s or late 1700s. She's transported a ways back to the times of the Highlanders and Culloden, and there's a mini series on Stars, and probably you know all about this, so I don't have to tell you a whole lot, but this is the second book in the series, and there are, I think, 8 or 9 of them now, so a lot. You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero, again, has been on my list for a bit. I'm getting through it. This is on my March reading plans. It's really about your relationship with money and your beliefs about money and your feelings and thoughts about money. Highly love it. Recommend it. Just haven't. Yeah. No excuses. Just too many books, too little time. Once Upon a River is also currently on my March reading list. I am now happy to say I am halfway through it, and it's picking up for me, and I'm going to finish it. I love it. It's a great story about a man who walks into a pub and by the Thames, and he is carrying a child that is dead, and then suddenly later it appears as though she's not dead. So whose child is she? How did that happen? Great story. And Magpie Murders is also on my list. This is, just started, not too far in it. I've marked it off so I can keep on pace, and it's Anthony Horowitz. I talked about this in my March reading goals, so take a listen to that, but it's a kind of a modern take on a classic murder mystery, but it follows the actual mystery that he wrote as well as the modern day when his editor is looking at it and what's happening with the actual book, and it has some tie to real life in some way. And it sounds a little confusing, but I'm gonna take a look at it. And then last but not least, I'm listening to Echo by Pam Munoz Ryan. Pam Munoz Ryan. Listening is the way to go on that one. I love it. It's a middle grade novel, Echo. It follows a boy who's playing in the woods with friends, and he gets lost, and he comes upon a book about a boy and a harmonica and 3 girls. And suddenly there are 3 girls around him, and they are in the book. And so that is a bit confusing. And then it follows on to some other stories and how this all interweaves into other people's lives. I really love it. So I'm about 2 hours in, and I think it's 10 hours. I can't even speed it up to make it go quicker because the lyrical nature of it, the storytelling aspect of it is so lovely that I don't want to speed it up in any way. So if these books are of interest to you, I recommend that you pick them up. If you've read them, I'd love to hear how you feel about them. I'd love to also know what other kinds of content you like to see. My subscribers are growing. I'm so excited. And so if there's something you really want to take a look at in terms of a video, let me know. I've got a lot of content planned already for the next month and a half, but I'm happy to take your suggestions and do videos about whatever interests you. I will say that my plan on this currently reading list is to add 1 or 2 of these books to my planning for the month to read so that I get them knocked off my list, and not to keep adding new books until I really start to make a dent in this list. So that is one of my goals for this year. This currently reading shelf is way too big, and it's time to take some of these books off that list. So either I'm going to finish them or I'm going to just take them off the list for now. As always, thanks for your support. I'd love it if you'd give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Click the button at the top, or the little bell. Sorry, it's not a button, the little bell at the top, and you'll get a notification when a new video is uploaded. I'll try to respond to your comments as soon as I can. And you can find me on social media in the description box below. I have a link to everywhere that you can find me. Let me know if you have a channel so I can subscribe to your channel as well. And finally, as always, happy reading. Bye-bye.